Hey there. Hello and welcome. Good evening or good morning, depending on where you are. And thank you for your patience while we've just been getting set up over here. I know we're running a little bit behind, but we think it'll be worth it. So today we have an exciting agenda. We are talking about tracking customer success metrics using Metabase. And to do that, who better than our VP of Customer Success, Cynthia Belusek, who's going to give us a bit of a run through on how we do it or how she does it and what it looks like in Metabase.
Great. So yes, I'm Cynthia Belusek, Vice President, Success Engineering here at Metabase. And our Success Engineering team is our customer-facing team that helps our customers. So if you're an open source user and you ask, excuse me, on our forums, we help you out there. If you're a paying Metabase customer and you reach out to us over email, we're the team that helps you out. We have a really strong technical team. On average, each team member has 15 years of experience. Many team members were using Metabase for years before they joined the company. And so if you ever have a problem with Metabase, I hope you'll reach out because we're happy to help and very knowledgeable. So because we mostly communicate over email, we measure a bunch of things that are very common for support teams. We use Zendesk. So if you email us, it creates a Zendesk ticket. And Zendesk, if you're not familiar with it, is a help desk or support tool. It's really great. It's a SaaS product. I've used it for many years, both here and at other companies. It's very configurable. Big fan of it. It has in-app reporting. And at the plan that we are in, we don't have custom reporting. I also just don't use any in-app reporting for any tool that we have here at Metabase. I do all reporting in Metabase. As you can imagine, huge fan and very much feel strongly that as a Metabase employee, I'm only going to use Metabase for any report I ever do. We use Fivetran to export information from Zendesk into our data warehouse. We use the Metabase feature models. So I'm going to show you some stuff today.
Can I just jump in? We have lost your screen share, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, okay. So fine. I will find those screens because that might be an important thing for us to be doing together today. Great. So while I'm pulling that up, I'll just also let you know. So what I've done for this webinar, what we'll do together today is I will recreate a dashboard that I use every week here at Metabase. I do a weekly update. I use this to also just kind of monitor and measure what we're doing as a team. So we'll do a variation of that. I've taken data from our existing models, popped it into this public facing instance of Metabase that we use for these kinds of things. I've removed all customer data. I've also just kind of scrambled the data a bit. So I've added some, taken some out. So anything you see today is not an accurate representation of any metric we have at Metabase. So please do not interpret it as such. But I'll talk to you about what we measure, why we measure it, how I feel about some of the measures, and all that kind of stuff. All right, so let me try sharing my screen. Awesome. Yeah, to make it as great as possible for you to see things, I have to expand it across my monitor. So now I cannot actually see any chats. So apologies for that. Jess is aware, and so will just talk to me using her voice if there's something I need to be aware of. And we also have a success engineer, Jacob, that will be joining us as well to answer any questions and to help out. So great. Okay, so what I've got here, I created a dashboard just to have things kind of set up a little bit. It's completely empty. It's very sad looking. And then I've also brought over two models that I've also brought in as models into Metabase. And so the first one we'll take a look at is this one. It's about ticket data. And the other one, which we'll look at a little bit later, is about ticket metrics. So Zendesk actually does a really great job of calculating a lot of metrics for you, so we don't have to do any of that. But there's still a lot of stuff and manipulation I want to do within Metabase. So let's get started. Okay, so the very first graph I ever created in Metabase when I joined the company was this one, which is I want to see what the volume of new tickets in looks like coming in through the week. And so very easy to create in Metabase. I've got a created at date in this model, which is the date the ticket was created. And I'm just going to click on distribution and bam, Metabase has created a graph for me. I'm just not a fan of line graphs. I mean, they're fine. They're just not my cup of tea. And so I'm going to go ahead and create this as a bar graph. And then I'm also going to change this to weeks. I have a very limited data set here. So I'm just going to go ahead and make this a week. the data that I pulled and modified is also since I think it begins July 1st, runs through September 30th. And this graph is pretty long, and I don't want this much data on the dashboard. So I'm actually going to change this, and I'm going to say, give me the last 12 weeks, though it's not going to give us 12 weeks because 12 weeks ago and today are kind of very different dates, not 30 weeks. All right, apply. Awesome. Okay, let me close this, take a look. Okay, looks pretty good. I don't like the dates being so long, so I'm going to modify this too. So let me take this created at, and I'm going to abbreviate dates and months, and we're looking good. Okay, one feature I love in the product that I wanted to highlight today too is our events feature. So looking at this, we've got pretty steady new tickets coming in week over week, and they have this spike here, which is really interesting. So you'll see this little birthday cake. And what I have done for this demonstration is I've added an event that is our 47 announcement. So if you subscribe to our newsletter, you would have received an announcement about our 47 release, which was on September 19th. Very exciting. Tabs, PDF exports, lots of cool features if you've not checked it out. But obviously, you send out an email, people are very excited about the release. We got a lot of emails about that. So this little birthday cake here just lets me know that, hey, that's what happened. And you can create a series of events. So this is great for if you're trying to track how, if you've got spikes in your data, you know why it happened. You can create a list of events, and then 6 months from now, when I'm like, what happened the week of September 17th? I don't have to ask myself that question. Metabase will tell me. So, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save this. And then let's see, tickets by week. Great. Then I'm going to go ahead and add this to a dashboard. Okay, make it a little bit bigger. We'll come back and play with this here in a bit, but I'm going to go ahead and just save it for now. Awesome. Great. And then the next thing that I look at when I'm looking at kind of our week over week metrics is how many new tickets did we have and how many tickets did we solve? So I'm going to go ahead and just go back to the same ticket data model. And I'm going to summarize what tickets were created, or just do a count of rows by this created at. So very simply going to click the summarize button, summarize by count. Those are all the rows in this table, all of which are tickets, of course. So I'm going to go ahead and click save and save this as new tickets. Great. And then I'm going to go ahead and add this to the dashboard. And I'm going to go ahead and put this over here. I'll clean this up a little bit here. I'm going to add a filter as well. So again, this data is a bit old. And well, I'll talk about this first. So we can filter on a number of things in Metabase. I'm going to filter on time. There's a lot of different options about how you want this filter to look. I like to have all of the options available to me, so I always choose all options. And then just to make our life a little bit easier, I'm going to go ahead and choose specific dates here. And because I know this data is a bit old, I'm going to go ahead and just hard code in, or choose as the default this week, because we'll be looking at that data. So great, here's my default value, done. And then I need to take this filter and this new card. So we'll find any ticket created at this particular week we're looking at. That's what we're doing here. So let me save this, and bingo, great. So we had 139 new tickets that week, which I didn't test this before. So luckily for me, this matched this column here. Great. All right. So the next thing I would look at are the solved tickets. And the way that Zendesk structures the data, solved ticket metrics are actually in the metrics table. So we'll start with there. Here's our solved at column. We're going to first remove any entries that don't have a date, because if they're not solved, there's no date. So I'm just going to click. Luckily for me, this very first one is blank. And I work as, you can call it efficiently or lazily as possible. So I'm just going to click on this and say, no, don't give me any links. So perfect. And then I'm going to do the same thing I did with the new tickets, just summarize by count. cool. We've got 2,244. So I'm going to save this. Solved tickets. And I'm going to add this to the dashboard. Great. I'm going to put this, drag this guy over here, put this one over here. And then I'm going to go ahead and hook up the state filter monitor filter to the solved tickets. And in this case, the first one's new tickets. I did it by created date. This one I'm going to do by solved date. Great. I did notice that when I was practicing for this, that the dashboard didn't automatically refresh. It should. I found a bug, so we'll be working on that. I'm going to go ahead and refresh this, and it should be closer to like 170. Perfect. Awesome. All right. The next thing I like to look at is backlog. And for me, backlog are all the open tickets that we have. In my perfect world, we would have a week's or less worth of work in our backlog at any given moment. I'm okay if we have 2 weeks or less in the backlog, and then more than 2 weeks would be very upsetting for me. So let's go ahead and create a graph for that. So the first thing I want to do, I like to look at a 6 weeks average of new tickets to get what those numbers are for me. So we're going to do that in Metabase. So go ahead and I'll just go back to this tickets table. Great. And I'm going to filter on the dates because, again, we've got this kind of date situation going on here. Filter by this column. Let's say specific dates. And I'm going to type it in here because I wrote this down and looked it up before. So between 8/20/2023 and September 30th, 2023. Let's see, this is gonna, there we go. Okay, you have to hit apply. There's a there's a little let me move that around. There's a little like, hey, you're sharing your screen thing over the apply buttons, which is incredibly helpful. Okay, so I've got the tickets in this date range. And then I want to go ahead and just do an average of the number of tickets per week. And again, in this case, what I would probably do in a real life situation is just look at the last 6 weeks and take the count and divide by the number of weeks. Because of this, I've hard coded these because the data is, of course, a little bit it's not, the data is a little bit limited and not up to today. So I'm going to write a custom expression. So if you're not familiar with custom expressions in Metabase, we have the typical things that you can do, counts, averages, all this kind of stuff when you summarize data, but you can also just write your own. And so this is like a formula builder. I love it. So I'm just going to say, give me the average, or actually let's take a count and divide it by 6. So average tickets per week. Great. So I've got 6 weeks worth of data. I'm going to take the count, divide it by 6. Great. And that gives me 130 tickets. So I'm just going to save this question for fun. So basically, what I would like to have the team have is 130 tickets. Sorry, I cannot type and talk after tickets per week. So in my ideal state, the team would have, I'm not going to put this on the dashboard. In my ideal state, the team would have 131 tickets or less that are open. I'd be a little concerned if they had more than 131, but less than 260. And I would be way freaked out if they had more than 260. So I want to create a gauge graph that shows that. So we'll go back to our ticket information. And I'm going to filter on one of the things that we have done in our Metabase model is we have, we've actually created this field that is open. So Zendesk considers new, open, pending and on hold tickets as open, solved, and closed as closed. And so just to make people's lives easier, so looking at stuff, we have a field that we've created that calculates that for us. So I'm going to first filter on, oh goodness, is open. And then one thing I noted, I'm noting here is that we have a status of on hold, which we really use just for tickets that are bugs. And we leave them open because when we fix the bug, we want to tell you about it. So if you're an existing paying Metabase customer, you find a bug, you should email us, let us know, we'll track it for you. We also take a look at what bugs were mentioned by customers. I could do a whole webinar on just this topic. But for today's purposes, what I don't want to do is include the hold status. So I'm just going to click on it and say, don't give me the holds. So great. And then the first thing I'll just do, go ahead and summarize our count. Great. So 58 tickets are currently open, but are not in hold. And then I'm going to go ahead and create a gauge for this. So out of the box, Metabase tries to help me here by giving me the midpoint. But in this case, it's a little quirky because lower is better. So I'm going to start by changing the color here to green. I personally prefer this green, so I'm going to pick that one. And again, a week's worth of tickets was 131. I would be sad-ish if the number is between 131 and 262. And then I'd be very, very disappointed if it was 262, let's say to 230, 293. And I like this red a little bit. Oh, it's very bright. Let's pick this slightly angry red. Okay, great. And then I'm going to save this one. Backlog. All right. And then I actually like we're into depth. I'm going to make this guy a little bit bigger. All right. So our dashboard's looking really good. I don't need to create a filter, a date filter on this one because I'm looking at current state. So existing open tickets today. But I'm going to go ahead and put a header in. I think these came out in 47. I'm a big fan. This one I'll call volume. Drag this to the top here. And then I'm going to create another heading because we're going to look at some other kinds of metrics here on responsiveness. Okay, suddenly I cannot remember how to spell the word responsiveness. That is not right. Oh my goodness. All right, there we go. All right. Cool. All right, look, the dashboard's looking pretty fancy. Okay, so the next thing I want to look at, a couple of different metrics around reply time. I really feel strongly that customers should get very quick response back from us. And again, Zendesk does a lot of this calculation for me, so my life is really easy. So I want to look at two things. The first is the average reply time in business hours. So we'll start with that, and I'm going to go to this metrics table. Move this guy out of the way. Okay. Unfortunately for me, though, Zendesk does not actually give me reply time in business hours. It just gives it to me in business minutes. So if I click on this, and Metabase does a beautiful thing here, just allowing me to summarize the average here. You know, it's telling me 231 minutes. I mean, I don't know how many minutes is that. No one knows. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the editor, and I'm going to, again, do a custom expression here. And I'm going to say, give me the average reply time in minutes business, but go ahead and divide it by 60. Oh gosh. And Metabase does prefer if you put parentheses where they're supposed to go. Okay, so far so good. Average reply time in our business hours. Great. I'm going to take this away. Cool. And it says 3.86. I personally, like, it's just too many decimal places for my own personal preference. So I'm just going to say, give me one decimal place, and now I'm much happier. So let me save this question. I'm going to add it to the dashboard. Okay, I'm going to make this card just a tiny bit bigger. And I will want to hook this up to the date filter. So I'm mostly worried about reply time for tickets that were created at this week. So I'll do that. Save the dashboard. I'll refresh it. Let's see what this number ends up being. Okay, it's pretty good. All right. But 5 hours, what does that really mean? Averages are so weird, right? Because you can have things that take a really long time, things are really short. And so another way that I like to look at this information is how many tickets do we reply to in one business day. So I'm going to go back to this metrics table. Okay. And then I'm going to do another custom expression here as well. Okay. And then what I'm going to say is I'm going to use our count if. So it's going to count all of the rows that have this. And I'm going to say if the reply time in business minutes is less than, we have a 9-hour business day in our contracts. And so 9 times 60 is 540. And then I'm just going to divide that by the count. So basically count all the ones that are less than 9 hours and then divide that by the count. Oh, I have to name this, don't I? So percent replied to in one business day. Great. Awesome. Okay. And it gives it to me in a decimal, because math, but I want to show this as a percentage. So I'm going to switch the visualization type to percent. Oh, and again, we're back to so many decimal places. So I'm just going to give it 0. Fancy. All right. And then we go ahead and save that and add it to the dashboard. Yes, please. Okay. Then I'm going to put this underneath this guy and make it just the same size. So pretty. And then I'm going to take the state filter and do the same thing. Create it at. Alrighty, looking good. Okay. So in addition to reply time, I also really would like to have customers have their problem solved. And we have a similar table, or we have similar metrics around solve times. So I'm going to go look at the ticket metrics again. So we have a full resolution time. I don't know why Zendesk decided to calculate it for me in hours here, but it's in hours, which is fantastic. And I can take a look at an average, but again, averages are weird, right? Some tickets get solved really fast because we are holding on to tickets that are bugs until the bugs are resolved, which could be days, weeks, months, right? Some period of time. If we close like a bug that a lot of customers had asked about, sometimes these averages can just really skew and go back and forth. So I much prefer to look at solve times in terms of like how many days. And so what I'm going to do here is actually write a custom column, which is kind of like a custom expression, but it's a column. And I'm actually going to say, I'm going to divide this up. So I will create a new column that identifies how long it took to resolve. So let me actually start this. It might make more sense while I jump into it. So I'm going to click on, actually I'm going to do one thing first. Let me go back to this and take off the summarization. Great, so here's my table. So I want to look at it as a table here in a second. And I'm just going to remove any of the rows that do not have a resolution time because they're not solved yet. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off. So now I'm just looking at tickets that have been resolved. And I'm going to go back to the editor and I'm going to click on custom column. And so what I'm going to do is create a column that says, hey, if that number is if that is less than 9 hours, we solved it in one business day. If it's less than 9 times 3 is 27. If it's less than 27, we solved it less than 3 business days. And if you've used Excel, and they're lovely, like nesting if statements to do this kind of work before, it's much easier to do, in my opinion, in Metabase, because we use something called a case statement. And the syntax is really straightforward. You give it the condition, put a comma, give it what you want the output to be, and just carry on. And then at the end, you can also say, hey, just if nothing else applied, go ahead and use this. So I'm going to go ahead and do case and do full resolution in hours business. So if it's less than 9 hours, I want the column to say less than 1 business day. I'm cheating a little bit ahead here because when I create the graph, Metabase will not sort these in the way that I wanted it to be sorted. I want it to be 1 business day, 3 to 7, or whatever I'm about to do here. I want it to be in a specific order. So I'm going ahead and giving the output a number to sort it beautifully for me. And I'm going to save you the time it would go back from the time that in real life when I did this, I spent back and forth between these two things. So, okay, so let's keep going. Full resolution time in hours business. So less than 27. Do 2, 1, 2, 3 business days. And then it will, when Metabase does the analysis, it will take the first number. So if I had something that was 15 hours, it'll look to see if it's 9, and then if it's not less than 9, it'll look at the next item. So I don't have to worry about putting. I can do less thans here versus having to do a statement that says, hey, if it's between these numbers, do this. If it's between these two numbers, do this, and then make sure those numbers don't overlap. So. All that to say. Okay, so under 27, what are we doing next? 63. Oops, 63. Let's say 3 business days to a week. Gonna spell correctly. It's gonna be great. Okay, and then anything that's greater than that, I'm just gonna say greater than a week. Okay, and I'm going to call this time to solve. Okay, so when I visualize the table, I now have a new column that says time to solve here. So it's a custom column. It's created a column based on my criteria there. And then I'm just going to choose distribution. And beautiful, it's created the graph for me. I really like a row chart when I've got these really long labels because I just think it's a little bit easier to read. So I'm going to go ahead and change this visualization to a row chart instead. It's looking nice. Great. I'm going to save this because that's important. Time to solve. Great. And then I'm going to add it to the dashboard. Awesome. I'm going to make this a little longer actually, so it's nice and aligned with the guy above it. Great. Okay, so those are our response. Oh, I forgot to hook up the filter. Hang on. Column to filter on, solve date. Perfect. All right. So those are my responsiveness metrics. And then the final section I'm going to create is all about satisfaction. Should we create a new heading here so we have it all nice and tidy. Okay, and when you interact with our success engineering team, we send you a survey after your ticket is closed. I think a couple of days after the ticket's closed. And Zendesk does their survey metrics. We use the built-in Zendesk functionality for this. And the survey has 2 options, good and bad. It's very controversial, I think. I've been to a couple of Zendesk events. People argue about this a lot. I personally love it because you're either happy or you're not. If you give you a 10 scale and you say you're like a 5, I mean, I don't know what that means, but it's very clear to me how you feel when you choose bad or good. There's also a place for you to put comments. You can explain why you felt the way that you did. We do read all of these. They go to a Slack channel. They're available to the entire company. Love all this stuff. So if you're an existing Metabase paying customer, you interact with us. Love it when you fill out the survey. And so, but let's take a look and see in this sample data how we did. So I'm going to go to the ticket data. Great. And then the column here that has that, okay, satisfaction rating. And same thing here. I'm going to click on the blanks. Just want the scores. Just want the scores. And then how did we do? Good or bad? So I'm going to do a distribution here again. I'm going to take away the sidebar. I very controversially as well love a pie chart. So I'm going to put this in a pie chart. I'm a huge fan. I know they have a bad rap, but there's definitely a place for them in the world. And I think this is a place where they belong. So great. Okay. The colors that Metabase has chosen don't necessarily reflect our feelings about things. So bad things are red. And again, I'll choose this less angry red. and good things are good. I'll choose this darker red because I think it's pretty. All right, cool. Okay, and then I'm going to save this. I'm going to put it on my dashboard. And I'm going to filter on, we also have a survey date in the data set. So I'm going to filter on, and for this graph, I just want to see the surveys that were filled out in the time period that I'm concerned about. So done that, save, awesome. And then finally, the other thing I really look at is response rate. You know, are our customers engaging with us in these surveys? And we have really great response rates here. We have actually really great, I didn't talk about this. I think this graph actually looks really bad, which in retrospect, I could have made this data more flattering to us, but we have really excellent satisfaction rates here. So I'd be very sad if this was the real data I was looking at this particular week. And we have great response rates too. So I want to go ahead and create a response rate survey. So I'll start with a response rate graph. And so look at the ticket data again. We have a column, again, this is not a column that Zendesk has created, but it's something that we've created in our model that says sent survey. And so I'm going to say true, because I'm only concerned about the people who sent a survey. And then what I want to see are if people filled out the survey, what does that percentage look like compared to people who did not fill out the survey? So I'm going to create a custom column that tells me that. So let me click create custom column. And I'm going to say, I'm doing another case statement, love these. So if the satisfaction rating is empty, I'm going to say somebody did not respond. And then otherwise they responded. So I don't know what to name this, is responded or not. Great. Okay. So I should see this in my data. Responded or not. I'm going to use my distribution trick here. And again, I love a pie chart, so I'm going to make this a pie chart. I don't know how I feel about these colors though. I'm going to say responded is like Metabase blue because, not responded. Obviously, not responded will make me sad. Something like a purple. And then responded, Metabase blue. So great. Okay. So response rate. Add this to the dashboard. And in this case as well, I'm going to want to look at the date that the survey was created at. So awesome. Okay, so this is a small sample of the data that we look at on a weekly basis. All set up here. Again, a huge fan of all these metrics and Metabase as a whole. And so yeah, that is how we do it here at Metabase. I'm going to switch to my other window, which means I won't be able to see this, and see if we have any questions.
Awesome, thank you, Cynthia. Just before we get started with the Q&A, I just want to drop in a link to a survey just to get some feedback on how you feel about this event and everything. So take a look at that, it's in the chat. Yeah, and then yeah, if you do have any questions, feel free to drop them into the questions tab. I think we've got a few already that that Jacob's gone through.
Yeah. So just looking, is there something I'm supposed to do, Jess, or can I just answer the questions?
Oh, yeah,
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Nadine had a question about how you can take it a step further. So one thing that's great for us is that we have all of our data from all of our tools in our data warehouse. And so I can connect this to other pieces of data that we have, like your customer information. And so I can pull in, I can look at satisfaction by all kinds of different levels, by number of users or by how much customers paying or longevity, right? I can see trends if you fill out surveys over time. I can see trends for you as a customer. So because we've got it all in Metabase and it's so easy for me to connect other data sources, I kept this really simple. I didn't actually create a join in this demonstration, but the fact that I can create we have all this data, we have it in one location, and I can just join it all together. It's pretty exciting and pretty fun for me. So yeah, I also say that it's been a while since I've used the Zendesk custom editor, but when I used it in the past, you could not join across their different table sets. And so like looking at response rate for certain ticket types when I had a custom column. I didn't go into this, and this could be, again, like a whole other webinar topic. But as the team is working on tickets, we do look at why you reached out to us. Was it you troubleshooting something? Did you know how to do something? We look at what product, we also know what product area, so we can look at trends over time. Are people having more struggles in certain areas of the product? Should we look at that as a product from a product perspective? And so there's some really interesting stuff we can do with that data, as well as combine that with our customers of a certain size having problems in particular areas. And so you can't do that and again, it's been a couple of years since I used Editor, but it was not possible to do that kind of stuff. It was not possible to kind of really like cross join some of those things. So I was pretty tickled that I have Metabase here. We do not have in our plan on Zendesk, we do not have the custom editor today. So it could have made huge improvements, and apologies if it has, and I'm just talking heavily about it. But obviously, because I can access this other data as well, it's just so much better for me to do it in Metabase. So great. Some of the questions. I should have done this. I filtered it by upvotes, and so things are kind of jumping about here. Is there a trick for choosing the decimal places and the percentages of the pie chart? I don't understand what that means. If you could maybe clarify, or Jacob, if you want to jump in, let me know. So let's see. Oh, I did not demonstrate this about drill-in. And so let me do that. And actually, let me resort these questions in a way that's not going to have them jump around, because that is particularly annoying. So let me go back to this window. Yes, I should have shown you this, because this is actually the coolest part of Metabase, in my opinion. But when I'm looking at this graph and like, oh, there's 3 people gave us bad surveys, I can actually click on this wedge and see these particular surveys. Again, I stripped out all kind of helpful and interesting, relevant information in my real life. When I click on this graph, I can see the customer, I can see the topic, I can see the description, I can see, and then actually we have in our Metabase instance, if I click on the subject, it takes me directly to the ticket in Zendesk. So we have the ability to change, you can change the columns to say, hey, when you click on this, pull in this up. We have it going to our Metabase URL with the ticket ID at the end of it. And so I can go right to that ticket, which is awesome and fantastic. So you can also, as somebody also asked about, I'm kind of surprised I didn't do this, because this is actually one of my favorite features, but you can put the percentages on the wedges themselves. So you can do it on the chart. I really was again, I love pie charts. I was really excited about this feature. I'm kind of surprised I didn't do it in this demonstration, because it is one of my favorite things, but you can do that as well. So let's see. We talked about that. Graphs to change in time. Jacob is suggesting that, oh, wow, this thing refreshing is just very exciting for me, because now the question has gone. Okay, we talked about the value. There's not a way to do the value today in Metabase, just the percentages on the pie chart graph. But the hover gives you a lot of information, and obvious, I would love to have that too. So right there with you, pie chart enthusiast. Do we analyze context description as well? We do some, as Jacob says, we're looking at some other kind of things to do with that. The team highlights tickets they want us to review in a weekly update. I read quite a few of them. We actually have like a live, Zendesk is really great with webhooks. We have a live stream that goes into a Slack channel. So if you wanted to view customer comments and tickets coming in, just kind of ingest all of that as it's coming in. We do that as well. I do think that the team choosing a product area and the team choosing a reason the customer reached out to us is probably the most interesting and impactful way for us to do that pretty easily without a lot of reading. Oh, Tomas is asking if it's possible to see a roadmap. Yes, metabase.com/roadmap. So we have a public-facing roadmap, and you can see what we're working on now, later in the future. Love it. Thank you, Margaret, for posting that link. Yes, we have a roadmap. It's always up to date. I love the fact that we're so transparent. You can always see bugs and features in our GitHub repository as well. So, is there an option to get top group values for bar chart and the rest is grouped as others, like in pie chart? Yeah, and Jacob notes here that it does depend on the size of the screen. The data that I have is pretty, and nothing I did today was very, had a lot of large data. So, but a good thing for us to show in a future webinar, like a lot of options. What does that look like, and how to make that tidy? I know that Maz from our design team did a session about making really beautiful dashboards in Metabase. That's a great one to check out. He is by far better. I am not a designer. His dashboards always look so beautiful. So if you're interested in making beautiful dashboards, I suggest that. So great. To get context. Choosing the decimal places and the percentages of pie charts. Yes, this is one of my sadness things of pie charts, because today it just shows you all the decimal places. And as you can tell, I really do not like that. I just want 1 or 0 decimal places, keep my life simple. So Jacob is saying that you could create a custom column with the data formatted in the way that you want, and then and do that. So yes. Do graphs to change in time see development over time from previous period in one graph? Jacob suggested using the summarize feature. There's also there is a kind of an interesting, I don't use this a ton, but it is out there. You do have the ability to overlay different series on the same graph. I don't have a line chart here, do I? But I have this bar. Where did my edit? Oh, goodness gracious. Where did my edit button go? Yeah, so you have this option to add another series. So you can overlay a different series on top of itself. So I don't know what these other I don't know what these other data series are, and so I'm not going to click on any of these. But certainly, it's something. That is definitely a fun way to play with that, and feel free to check that out. Okay, talked about customer health dashboard and talked about drilling. Okay, I think you answered all the questions, Jess.
Yeah, that was a clean sweep. Nicely done. Should we give people just maybe one more second in case there's any lingering questions? I think probably if you had a question, you've got it out. So I think we're probably pretty good to wrap up. Oh, sorry, there's one more question. I've been using Metabase for a few months. Last time I lost an additional y-axis on the left side of the chart after upgrading to Metabase 47.5. I didn't change any model. Maybe, do you know if that's a breaking change? I don't know if it's a breaking change. I can see Jacob's in there.
Oh, is Jacob answering?
Yeah.
Oh, he's replying. Okay. Yeah. Off the top of my head, I don't know. I don't know either.
Yeah.
Or I'm not aware either. But it's a good time. If you are a paying Metabase customer, you can always reach out to us. There's instructions on the help link in the product. If you're an open source customer, we have a forum, a discourse forum that you can always reach out, connect with other Metabase users, and the team does spend some time in there answering questions as well. So feel free to connect with us that way. So Jacob is saying it's a change in the recent version. You can go to edit the visualization settings, select the data tab, and select if you want what you want the axis to show on the right or left. So, and that the threshold for auto has changed the most recent version. So that sounds like a pretty cool feature. I don't do a ton of graphs that have different axes. And certainly I kept things very simple today, but I do appreciate when you've got really wildly varying numbers that we've got these options. So.
Yeah, and thank you for taking us through it today. I actually learned a lot about features that I've been sleeping on as well. So hopefully other people also got a bit of insight into all the things that you can do and ways that you can use Metabase for customer success.
Great. Awesome. Well, thanks for having me
Cool.
today. Love to come back and talk more about bugs and all kinds of other things we track in Zendesk. So
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much. And thank you everyone for joining us. You can find this session on demand on our events page or on YouTube, and we'll see you for the next one.
thanks.
Have a good day and night.